My parents tried to drain my daughter's MIT college fund for my sister's wedding Reddit stories. What they called a family decision was an attempted transfer that could have erased 18 years of sacrifice in seconds. When I stood up to stop it, everything I thought I knew about loyalty collapsed. Hi, I'm Larry, 45, Boston, and 3 weeks ago I watched my father reach across a bank manager's desk and try to steal my daughter's future with a single click. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally. Literally. He tried to drain her college fund, her MIT college fund, while my sister explained, in the tone of someone choosing a brunch spot. We're using your daughter's money for my son's wedding. Weddings are more important than education. I can still see that number on the screen. $52,000. 18 years of cab shifts, tips, airport runs, nights I worked through fevers because I didn't have sick pay. All of it sitting there in black font on a white screen while Megan crossed her legs and said, "People remember weddings. No one remembers where you went to college." My mom chimed in like she was approving a salad dressing choice. "Besides, Mia doesn't really need college. She's too smart anyway." Too smart. As if intelligence were some sort of financial cushion she could sleep on. 3 days earlier, my daughter had gotten her acceptance into MIT. I still had the printed letter folded behind my driver's license like a holy relic. She'd cried when she read it. Happy tears. Tiny, stunned gasps. She worked for that. She earned that. And my family? They saw it as a convenient piggy bank. So when my dad moved the mouse, when that little spinning wheel appeared next to "Transfer pending," something inside me didn't explode. It sharpened. I didn't yell. Didn't slam the desk. Didn't grab the mouse out of his hand. I just stood up and said very calmly, "I need to make a phone call." They didn't stop me. Of course they didn't. In their minds, the money was already theirs. I stepped into the hallway, heart pounding in my teeth, and called a lawyer I'd driven to Logan during a blizzard 2 years back, a guy named Vic who said, "If you ever need legal help and don't want to get burned, call me." He answered on the second ring. "Larry, everything okay?" "No," I said. "My parents just tried to steal my kid's college fund." And that was the moment, standing in a stale bank hallway smelling like old carpet cleaner, that I finally realized something heartbreaking and clarifying. My family never once believed in Mia. But I did. And I would burn every bridge necessary to make sure she got her shot. What came next? Lawyers. Banks. Revoked access. A cancelled waterfront wedding that sent shockwaves through my entire family tree. And a daughter who looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you for choosing me." But right then, right there in that hallway, before the storm, the fallout, the screaming, and the rebuilding, I made a quiet promise. MIT will get every penny she needs. Even if I have to tear down the people who raised me to do it. I walked back into that little glass box of a bank office with Vic on speaker, my pulse pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. My parents and Megan looked up like I'd simply gone to stretch my legs, not call in legal air support. "Before anything is finalized," I said, "I need to speak with the manager privately." Megan threw her head back. "Oh my God, Larry, don't start. We already," I said. I repeated, looking directly at the manager. "I need to speak with you alone." Maybe it was my voice. Maybe it was Vic's name appearing on my caller ID. Maybe it was the word, fraud, I'd already dropped at the front desk. Whatever it was, the manager stood up immediately. "Of course, sir." My family filed out in a chorus of muttering and side eyes. The second the door closed, Vic's voice filled the room, smooth, calm, and surgical. "This is Attorney Vic Patel. My client, Mr. Russo, believes an unauthorized transfer has been initiated from a 529 college savings account. We need that transfer frozen immediately." The manager nearly tripped over his own chair. Yes, of course. Let me pull it up." He clicked through the account details, then squinted. This is a custodial 529 plan. Owner, Larry Russo. Beneficiary, Mia Russo. I'm not seeing any co-owners. My mouth went dry. Then how did my father just transfer $52,000? The manager's face strained of color. Oh. That transaction isn't complete. It's still queued. I assume. He swallowed. I assumed he was acting for you under the limited power of attorney he brought in last week. My stomach dropped through the floor. The POA. The one I signed in the hospital after the car accident last year. The one my dad said was, just in case you're out of commission and bills pile up. I thought it covered emergencies. Turns out it covered theft. Vic stepped in, voice tightening. That document is hereby revoked effective immediately. Mr. Russo does not consent to any transfers out of that 529 except to pay tuition directly to an educational institution. Freeze all pending transfers. Note the file, no third-party access. Written authorization from the owner only. The manager was already typing like his life depended on it. The transfer is cancelled. Funds remain untouched. I'm so sorry for the confusion, Mr. Russo. And just like that, Mia's future snapped back into place. I felt my knees soften. My lungs finally worked again. The college fund I'd built from airport tips and double shifts and nights where exhaustion made my vision blur, it was still hers. Outside the office, my parents and Megan were laughing about something, like the last 20 minutes hadn't detonated the foundation of our entire family dynamic. I stepped out. They all looked up. It's done, right? My dad asked, smug. It's handled, I said. I didn't elaborate. Not yet. Because Vic wasn't done. Larry, he said quietly in my ear, you and I need to talk. Bring everything, bank statements, joint accounts, any document with your father's name near yours. We're cleaning house today. I hung up. My mom was already putting on her coat. Good, she said. Now maybe we can all move on. Dylan only gets one wedding. Mia will be fine. Megan smirked. Loans exist for a reason, Larry. Be practical. I stared at them, these three people who had convinced themselves taking from my daughter wasn't theft but entitlement. Right, I said. See you all soon. I walked out of the bank with the same calmness you feel when you finally decide to leave a burning building instead of trying to save the furniture. Behind me, they believed they won. By the end of the day, they'd realized they just declared war on the wrong parent. Vic's office sits above a pizza shop that's been burning the same pepperoni since the Bush administration. The hallway smells like garlic, old carpet, and courtroom anxiety. Exactly the kind of place you go when you need quiet revenge done legally. I slid into the chair across from his desk, dropped a folder full of bank statements, and said, "Tell me how bad it is." He flipped through everything with the speed of a man who has seen far worse, but still finds new ways to be disappointed by humanity. After 5 minutes, he leaned back, exhaled, and said, "Okay. 2 things." I braced myself. 1, he continued, your dad has absolutely been using you as his personal ATM. Not surprising, but hearing it out loud hit like a tire iron. And 2, he added, pointing at a stack of highlighted transactions, they've already been dipping into every shared account you ever let them touch. I leaned forward. How much? He turned the statement toward me. Joint savings account, 6 months ago, $31,257. Now, $14,020. $17,000. Gone. Withdrawn in little bites, credit card payments, cash pulls, deposits into Megan wedding savings. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Not rage. Not shock. Something colder. They've been bleeding you dry, Larry, Vic said. I stared at the numbers. All those months I skipped meals between shifts to stretch my budget. All those times Mia needed a new pair of glasses and I waited until a coupon came in the mail. All those tiny sacrifices that always ended with my parents saying, "Just until we're over this hump." And they were funneling thousands into a wedding venue. Not a necessity. Not a crisis. A wedding. Vic slid a pen toward me. So here's what we're going to do. For the next hour, we went thermonuclear in the most polite, paperwork-driven way possible. Revoked the POA formally, legally, permanently. Removed my father as co-owner from every account tied to my name. Transferred every remaining cent from the joint savings into a brand new private account. Locked Mia's 529 plan behind multi-factor authentication and a security phrase no one in my family could guess. Cancelled the automatic $600 deposit I'd been sending my parents monthly for 4 years. Froze unauthorized access on every card and account my father had ever touched. Then came the fun part. The waterfront venue. The one Megan boasted about like she'd won it in a raffle for delusional siblings. We called the manager. He recognized my name immediately. "Oh, Mr. Russo, the $10,000 deposit you made." "No," I said. "That deposit was made without authorization. It's being disputed. Cancel the booking." The silence on his end was delicious. Vic stepped in with his calm lawyer voice, and by the time the call ended, the venue date was gone, my card was flagged, and Megan's dream wedding had officially slid off the cliff. I left Vic's office with a folder under my arm and a strange feeling in my chest, not guilt. Not fear. Relief. I wasn't losing my daughter's future. I was finally taking back mine. My phone buzzed the second I got to my cab. "Dad, where did the money go?" "Mom, the bank said the transfer didn't go through." "Fix this." "Megan, what did you do?" "The venue cancelled." "Are you insane?" I didn't respond. I turned the key in the ignition, pulled into traffic, and let the familiar hum of the engine drown out the noise. Because this, right here, was the midpoint. The moment the ground shifted. The moment the people who had always expected me to roll over finally met the version of me who didn't. And they had no idea what was coming next. The next morning felt like stepping into a new life, unfamiliar, steady, quiet in a way that made me realize how loud my family had always been inside my head. I made Mia pancakes shaped vaguely like circles, drove an early airport run, grabbed coffee from the little cart near Government Center. Each hour felt lighter. Cleaner. Like someone had hit the reset button on my nervous system. Until my phone started vibrating nonstop. 23 missed calls before 10 a.m. I finally answered on speaker while my cab idled in a Dunkin' parking lot. My dad's voice exploded out of the phone like a raccoon in a trash can. "Where is the money? The wedding funds are gone. The bank says you removed me from the account." "Yes," I said, taking a sip of coffee. Silence. He hadn't expected calm. "You're trying to ruin your nephew's wedding," he snapped. "You're overreacting to a misunderstanding. Fix it." "You mean the part where you tried to steal from your granddaughter?" I asked. "That misunderstanding? It's not stealing if it's family," my mother screeched in the background. A line I will remember on my deathbed. I set my coffee down. "You took money from Mia's account. You siphoned the joint savings. You used my credit for a venue deposit. You forged a POA to access things you shouldn't. That's not family. That's fraud. You're being dramatic," my dad said, dismissive, frantic. "Mia will be fine. She's smart. She can get scholarships. Wedding deposits are due now. And MIT," my mom added sharply, "is not for people like us. Be realistic, Larry. She's setting herself up for disappointment." There it was. They didn't just try to take her money. They didn't believe she deserved MIT in the first place. I felt something inside me settle into place. A clarity so sharp it could cut glass. "Listen carefully," I said. "You are off every account tied to my name. The monthly transfers have stopped. You're not getting a cent from me, not for a wedding, not for bills, not for emergencies, nothing." A stunned silence crackled through the line. My mom recovered first. "So you're choosing her over US?" "Yes," I said. "That's what being a parent is." My dad shouted something muffled. My mom gasped like she'd been slapped by a ghost. Megan's voice suddenly pierced through the background. "You ruined everything." Then came the guilt tirade. The martyrdom monologue. The classic hits. I didn't hear all of it because I pulled the phone off speaker and let them scream into my palm until they ran out of oxygen. When they finally paused, I said, "I'm blocking your numbers now." "You wouldn't," my mom began. Click. Blocked. The silence afterward was symphonic. My cab hummed. A seagull screeched. Someone honked in the distance. For the first time in decades, no one in my family had access to my money, my accounts, or my peace. And they were about to learn what life looked like when I stopped being the backbone of their bad decisions. But the fallout? That was only warming up. News spreads fast in my family, faster than illness, faster than gossip, faster than common sense. By evening, the entire Russo clan was vibrating like a broken streetlight. My Aunt Rosa texted first. "Your mother says you sabotaged Dylan's wedding out of jealousy. What's going on?" Then my Uncle Frank. "They said you locked your own parents out of their money. Tell me that's not true." Then, unbelievably, a message from Ashley, Dylan's fiancée, who I barely know. "I'm not taking sides, but your parents said you gambled away Mia's college fund and are blaming them. Also, they said Mia probably wouldn't make it at MIT anyway. I figured you should know." That last line hit harder than every lie combined. Not because my parents said it, God knows they've always had a talent for underestimating my daughter, but because they said it to her. I sat there in my cab staring at that message, hands gripping the wheels so tightly the leather creaked. "Enough." I texted back. "The money is there. They tried to move it behind my back to pay for a waterfront wedding. I stopped them. Asked the bank whose name is on the account." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally. Oh. 1 word. Sharp. Clear. Dead end. The lies were starting to collapse. 30 minutes later, my cousin Mark, one of the few decent ones, called. "Okay," he said without hello. "I talked to Ashley. I talked to the bank. Your parents are lying through every tooth in their mouths." I leaned back in the seat, tension loosening just a fraction. "Yeah. And listen," he continued, lowering his voice, "I'm not going to their house on Sunday. If you and Mia want to come over to ours, we're grilling. I bought her that stupid MIT hoodie she's been eyeing. Figured she wouldn't ask." I blinked hard. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Mark said. "Some of us are proud of her." It was the first time someone outside my household had said that out loud. Meanwhile, back at my parents' place, the meltdown reached volcanic levels. I heard the play-by-play later from multiple sources. Megan screaming that I murdered her wedding. My dad yelling that she told him to drain the whole account before I noticed. My mom sobbing about ungrateful children, while clutching a spoon like it was a crucifix. Dylan, sweet, clueless Dylan, finally snapping. "I didn't ask you to steal from MIA." That last one apparently shut the entire house down. Guest list shrank overnight. Cousins found sudden conflicts. The wedding group chat turned into a ghost town. The Russo reputation economy was plummeting. And they blamed me, of course. They always do. But for once, their blame didn't cost me anything. No money. No energy. No sleep. Because something had shifted. Mia knew the truth. I knew the truth. Enough people believed the truth. And the fund? Untouched. Safe. Growing. That night, Mia sat across from me at our tiny kitchen table, MIT housing brochures spread out between us like tarot cards predicting a better future. "Dad," she said quietly, "do you think they're going to stop?" "No," I said honestly. "But they won't get anywhere." She nodded. "Good." She circled the dorm she liked best. I watched her hands, her focus, her bright determination. All the proof I needed that I'd made the right choice. But the real confrontation, the final break, the one that would close one door forever and open another, that arrived the following Tuesday. They showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday evening, the kind of knock you feel in your spine before you hear it. Sharp. Angry. The knock of people who expect the door to open because it always has. Mia and I were at the kitchen table, sorting through her MIT meal plan options. Stir-fry leftovers scented the whole apartment. It was peaceful. Soft. Ours. Then the knocking came again. Mia froze. "Is that them?" she whispered. I didn't have to look through the peephole to know. "Yeah," I said. "Stay here." I opened the door just wide enough to block the entrance with my body. My dad stood front and center in his old Bruins jacket, jaw tight, eyes wild. My mom hovered beside him with her purse clutched like a moral shield. Megan wasn't with them, probably at home Googling cheap wedding venues near me that allow emotional damage deposits. "We're here to talk some sense into you," my father announced, trying to shoulder past me. He hit a wall. "Me. There's nothing to talk about," I said. My mom stretched her neck to peer over my shoulder and spotted Mia at the table. "You're confusing her," she scolded. "Dragging her into adult issues. She doesn't understand money." Mia stood up. Her hands shook, but her chin didn't. "I understand you tried to take my college fund," she said quietly. "And I understand you don't think I belong at MIT. It was the calmest knife I'd ever heard delivered. My mom's mouth fell open like a puppet whose string got cut. "That's not, we were just reorganizing." My dad stepped in, voice rising. "Fine. You want the truth? Maybe we don't think you belong there. Maybe we think you're setting yourself up for failure. When you drop out, don't come crying to us." The words hit the hallway like a brick through glass. Mia didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't shrink. She just nodded once. "Don't worry," she said. "I won't." My father blinked, thrown. He hadn't expected resistance from the kid he'd spent 18 years dismissing. I stepped forward, filling the doorway. "Dad," I said, my voice low and level, "this is the last time I'm saying this. You are not entitled to my money. Not entitled to her future. Not entitled to walk in here and insult my daughter in her own home." My mom clutched her purse. "Family doesn't turn their back on each other, Larry." "You turned your back on her," I said, "the second you decided her education was optional." Silence. Breathing. 3 stunned faces. And then I did the thing I should have done 20 years ago. I closed the door. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just firmly. They didn't wedge a foot. They didn't beg. They didn't yell through the wood. They just stood there until the latch clicked. On the other side of the door, I heard my mom whisper to my dad. "He'll come around. He always does." But for the first time in my life, she was wrong. Mia's move-in day came faster than I expected. August in Boston is a special kind of humid, like trying to breathe inside someone's armpit, so by the time we hauled her boxes up to the 4th floor of the dorm, both of us looked like we'd just completed a Tough Mudder. Her roommate's family had already left, but they'd taped a sticky note to the desk. * welcome, Mia. Jules, smiley face, *. Mia smiled at it like it was a sign the universe approved. We made her bed, arranged her books, stuck a goofy photo booth strip of the two of us above her desk. Mark, my cousin, showed up with his wife and kids in tow, grinning. "I come bearing gifts," he said, pulling out an MIT hoodie. "You'll need this in about 12 minutes, when the temperature drops to Antarctic." Mia lit up. She pulled it on immediately, despite the room already being roughly the temperature of boiling soup. We grabbed lunch from a food truck overlooking the Charles River. 8 of us sat on the grass, me, Mia, Mark's family, and one of my cab buddies who declared, "If this kid's going to run the world one day, I want to say I was here." I checked my phone only once. 3 unread texts from my mother. "We heard move-in is today. We weren't invited. You'll regret this." I slid the phone back into my pocket. I didn't regret anything. After lunch, we walked Mia back to her dorm. She paused in the doorway, looking nervous and excited and painfully young. And then she hugged me, tight, like she was trying to memorize the shape of home. You okay? I asked. She nodded. Scared. But good. Good scared, I said. Means you're doing something big. She pulled back, studying my face. Do you think they'll ever apologize? I didn't lie. I don't know. She exhaled slowly. Do they still get money from you? Not anymore, I said. Not ever again. She closed her eyes in relief. Good. On the drive home, the back seat was empty except for a stray hoodie string and a tuition packet she didn't need anymore since everything was online. The apartment felt bigger when I walked in later, quieter, sure, but not lonely. Just ready for whatever came next. I printed the latest statement from her fund, slid it into a folder labeled MIA, Future, and placed it at the back of my filing cabinet. Years ago, I thought my purpose was keeping my parents, my sister, and half the extended family afloat. I thought sacrifice was love. I thought drowning was duty. But watching Mia walk into MIT with her head high, knowing every penny behind her was protected, that was love. If my parents ever want back into our lives, they'll know exactly where to find us one day, not at a waterfront wedding built on stolen money, but at a graduation stage where the girl they underestimated walks across in an MIT stole. And the only name that belongs on the check that got her there is mine. What I didn't expect, what I never planned for, was what happened a few months later, on a cold October morning when Boston finally remembered it was supposed to be chilly. I was waiting outside Building 7 for Mia. She had a breakfast meeting with her advisor who, apparently, used phrases like, "Your research trajectory," completely unironically. I was leaning against my cab, sipping burnt coffee, watching students swarm across campus like caffeinated ants. Then I saw her, hood up, backpack on, MIT lanyard swinging, walking with a confidence that didn't exist 6 months ago. She saw me, waved, and jogged over. "Dad," she said, slightly out of breath. "Guess what?" "What?" "My advisor wants me to apply for a summer research program. Paid. Full stipend." I blinked. "Paid?" She grinned. "Paid." It hit me then, not the relief, not the pride, but something deeper. She wasn't just going to be okay. She was going to thrive. We walked toward the student center, wind picking at our jackets. Students in lab coats hurried past. A drone zipped overhead. Somewhere, a professor lectured through a megaphone about entropy. "This place suits you," I said. She nudged me. "I think it does." We grabbed coffee and sat on the steps. People streamed by, brilliant kids from every corner of the planet, speaking languages I couldn't identify, solving problems I couldn't begin to imagine. And right there, in the middle of all that genius, my daughter sat beside me, stirring her cocoa like the world finally made sense. "Dad," she said softly, "I know the last year was awful. But I'm glad it happened." I frowned. "Really?" "Yeah," she said. "Because now I know you'll always choose me. Not them. Not anything else. Me." I swallowed hard and nodded. "Always." A few minutes passed before she spoke again. "Do you ever think they'll come around?" I considered it. My parents hadn't texted since the door closed in their faces. Megan had gone silent except for one accidental dial where I heard her complaining about centerpieces. Dylan had quietly sent a friend request to Mia on social media. She ignored it. "I think," I said finally, "they'll come around when they understand that coming around doesn't mean taking. It means respecting." "And if they don't?" she asked. "Then they miss out," I said. She smiled, a small, confident, knowing smile. The kind only a kid who's been protected at the exact right moment can have. The bell tower chimed the hour. Students surged. Mia stood, slung her backpack over one shoulder, and gave me one last quick hug. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, kiddo." I watched her disappear into a crowd of brilliant minds, walking toward a future no one in my family had believed she deserved, except me. And the truth settled in my chest like something earned, not inherited. I didn't just save her college fund. I saved the part of her life that should never have been negotiable. I saved myself from being milked dry by people who confused love with access. And when that acceptance letter turns into a diploma one day, when Mia crosses that stage in cap and gown, surrounded not by people who tried to steal her future but by people who supported it, I'll know exactly what I did right. I chose my daughter. And that choice rewrote everything. Mia had been at MIT for 2 months when I realized something strange. For the first time in my adult life, my phone was quiet. Not silent. She texted me memes about quantum mechanics that I pretended to understand, and photos of the robot clubs, Frankenstein Roomba. But the old noise was gone. No. We need money. No. Call us immediately. No guilt grenades lobbed at my head at 2 a.m. My parents weren't talking to me. My sister wasn't talking to me. And instead of feeling cut off, I felt oxygenated. But peace is a suspicious thing in a family like mine. Too still, too calm, too easy. You start waiting for the next ripple. It arrived in the form of a letter. An actual letter, paper, envelope, my name scrawled on the front in handwriting I recognized instantly. My mom's. I found it on my doormat after a late shift. It was thin. No check inside, no gift card, no court notice. Just a single sheet of paper that felt as fragile as she must have felt writing it. I sat on the couch, hesitated, then opened it. Larry. We heard Mia is doing well. That's good. Your father and I, we don't agree with how things happened. We don't. But we also don't want the family to stay broken forever. Holidays are coming. Maybe we could talk before then. Not about money. Just talk. Mom. I stared at the letter for a long time. There were no apologies. No real accountability. But for my mother, the woman who treated admitting fault like confessing to murder, the line, "Not about money," was practically a Shakespearean monologue. I put the letter on the table and sat with the feeling. Half of me wanted to tear it up. The other half felt tired. Tired of anger. Tired of carrying the weight alone. I didn't answer right away. A few days later, while driving a late-night fare, my dispatcher called. Larry, you got company at the lot, he said. Who? Your father. My heart dropped. I finished the fare, then drove back to the taxi yard, headlights cutting through the early morning mist. And sure enough, there he was. Leaning on the hood of my cab's parking space, hands in his pockets, shoulders hunched like he wasn't sure he was allowed to stand upright. He hadn't come to my apartment. Hadn't called. He came to my work, the only place he knew I couldn't avoid him. I parked, got out, waited. He didn't bark. Didn't accuse. Didn't demand. He just said, You got a minute? And for the first time since the bank incident, I saw something unfamiliar in his face. Not anger. Fear. Fear of losing something he assumed was permanent. I crossed my arms. I'm listening. He nodded once, swallowed, then looked me dead in the eyes. Your mother wants to fix things, and so do I. It wasn't an apology. But it wasn't nothing. And it wasn't the last thing he said that night. Not by a long shot. For a long moment, my father didn't say anything else. Just stood there under the buzzing yellow lot light, looking 10 years older than he had in that bank office. His jacket hung loose on his shoulders, like it belonged to someone bigger or younger or less tired. Finally he cleared his throat, the same sound he makes before bad news, confessions, or Patriots score updates. I handled things wrong, he said quietly. I actually blinked. My father doesn't say those words. Ever. He once put a dent the size of a grapefruit in his own truck and spent 4 years insisting someone must have rammed him at the grocery store without him noticing. What does that mean? I asked, not moving. He rubbed the back of his neck. It means I got caught up. Megan told us you'd never miss the money. That Mia had her own scholarships coming. That it was family. She made it sound harmless. There it was. The old pattern. The excuse. So you didn't check? You just believed her? I asked. He winced like I'd pressed on a bruise. No. I didn't check. I trusted her. And he exhaled. I didn't think you'd find out. That part hurt more than anything else. Not that he tried it, but that he thought I wouldn't notice my daughter's future vanishing. Dad, I said slowly, you saw the acceptance letter. You saw her face. And you still clicked confirm. He closed his eyes. He didn't deny it. He didn't justify it. For once, he didn't try to win the argument. I know, he said. And it was wrong. My breath caught. Not because it fixed anything, but because I'd never heard those words from him in my entire life. Your mother misses you, he added, voice rough. She doesn't know how to say it without making it worse. I almost laughed. That part one believed. She wrote me a letter, I said. His eyebrows shot up. She did? Yeah. Not an apology. Not really anything. But it was something. He nodded like that was more than he'd expected. We stood there in the damp night air, listening to cabs come and go. For a second, we could almost have been two normal people having a normal conversation. Then he ruined it in classic dad fashion. So, he said cautiously, what do you say? Maybe we could all sit down together. Talk. Get past this. I shook my head before he even finished. No. He flinched. Larry. No, I repeated. Not yet. Not like this. You don't get to skip the hard part. You don't get to ask for family time before you face what actually happened. You took from her. You took from me. You treated us like a resource. That doesn't get erased with one conversation in a parking lot. He looked down at his shoes. I'm not saying never, I added. But right now, I need distance. Mia needs distance. He nodded, eyes tight. But you'll think about it. Yes, I said. But on my timeline. Not yours. He put his hands in his pockets, stepped back, and for the first time in months said something that wasn't wrapped in expectation. Tell Mia. I'm glad she's doing good. I exhaled slowly. Okay. I'll tell her. He walked away, shoulders hunched, not victorious, not angry, just a man who finally realized he wasn't the one holding the reins anymore. I got back in my cab. The seat was cold. The engine hummed. For a moment I just sat there. Relief wasn't the right word. Neither was victory. It was something quieter. Something steadier. Authority. Over my life. My money. My boundaries. My daughter's future. A feeling I hadn't tasted in 45 years. And whatever was coming next, holidays, confrontations, repairs, or permanent distance, I knew one thing. I wasn't afraid of them anymore. 2 weeks passed before I heard from my mother directly. It came as a voicemail, because of course it did. She's always preferred the dramatic monologue format. Probably believes her own voice has more emotional gravity when it echoes through a speaker. Larry, it's your mother. The message began, as if caller ID were an abstract concept. I don't know what your father said to you, but I think, perhaps, we all said things we didn't mean. I paused the playback right there. My mother saying the words we all instead of you was a tectonic event. I hit play again. I would like to see you. And Mia. Not to fight. Not about all that. Just to see you. She hesitated before the last line. I miss my family. I didn't know how to feel. Half of me softened. The other half stiffened like a guard dog. People like my mother don't apologize. They circle the perimeter of an apology with soft language and hope you fill in the missing pieces. But still, the tone was different. Not guilt-laced, not manipulative, not demanding. Just lonely. I didn't call back immediately. Instead, I let the message sit in my phone like a fragile object I wasn't sure how to handle. The next day, Mia called. Dad, she said, voice buzzing with the energy of someone who hadn't slept but was too excited to care. Guess what? MIT gave you your own parking spot? She snorted. Funny. No. I got picked for a freshman mentorship program. My advisor recommended me. Kiddo, I said, feeling my chest go warm. That's amazing. I know, she said, shy but glowing. And, they want to interview you too. Like, the parents of students. About the sacrifices they made. For a feature. I blinked. Me? Why? Because, she said gently, apparently working 60-hour cab weeks to fund a college dream is inspirational. I rubbed a hand over my face. I don't think I'm inspirational. I think I'm exhausted. Well, you're both, she said. And I want you to do it. That alone almost made me say yes. But then she added, and Dad? I want a photo with you for it. Just us. No one else. For some reason, that hit harder than anything else that month. Just us. I told her yes before she even finished the sentence. We said a weekend. I shaved, wore a decent shirt, practiced smiling in the bathroom mirror like an idiot. When we got to campus, the reporter asked us questions under a shade tree, about hard work, dreams, the cost of ambition, the weight of generational narratives, all the stuff you usually hear in commencement speeches. At one point, the reporter asked Mia, what kept you going when things got hard? She didn't look at the ground. She didn't shrug. She didn't deflect. She pointed at me. Him. The photographer snapped a picture right then, me staring at my daughter smiling like she was carved out of sunlight. Later, after the photos, I remembered my mother's voicemail. Remembered the ache in her voice. Do you want to go see them? I asked gently. Mia considered it. She really thought about it. Finally she said, if we go, I need one thing. What's that? An exit plan. Smart kid. So we set rules. 30 minutes max. We leave together at the first sign of blame, guilt, or manipulation. Mom talks to us, not at us. No money talk. No wedding talk. No rewriting of history. The next Saturday, we drove to my parents' house. As we pulled into the driveway, I felt that old familiar heaviness in my ribs, but it didn't crush me this time. Didn't own me. Just lingered like a smell from a house you moved out of years ago. Mia reached over and squeezed my hand. You're not the same person who used to get pushed around here, she said. Neither was she. We got out of the car and walked to the front door. My mother opened it before we even knocked. She looked smaller. Not physically, just less inflated. Her eyes were softer, maybe from the weeks of silence or the weight of her own choices settling in. Hi, she whispered. Mia said, Hi, Grandma. My mom's chin trembled. She stepped aside. Come in, she said. Please. And for the first time in a long, long while. We did. We stayed only 20 minutes. No accusations, no money talk, just a quiet attempt at something new. When Mia and I walked back to the car, she slipped her hand into mine and said, That was enough. For now. And as we drove away, I realized she was right. Healing didn't mean forgetting, or fixing everything at once. It meant choosing together what came next, and leaving the rest behind.